arranged our graduation speaker. We stupidly shot for the moon, literally, and tried to get one of the moon Apollo astronauts to become our guest speaker, and they always cancel because they got a million. They're getting pulled a million different directions. And at my third year at the academy, my internship was at NASA at Edwards, working on the X-29 airplane.
Oh, was it?
So the Air Force Chief Test Pilot X-29 at the time was a guy named Ted Wiersbanowski, W+12. And so with 2 weeks to graduation, I called W+12 and says, "Hey, it's Grease. We're sorry to tell you that yes, you are the backup plan, but can you come be our guest speaker?" So you gotta let me tell that story because that one's classic. So of course, Grease, I'll be there. So I'll think of something to say. So in graduation, this is a good 10% true phase now. So at test pilot school during this period, the new commandant, who should remain nameless, my first commandant was Jimmy Doolittle, the third.
Uh,
And I have a picture of Michael on the swing set with Jimmy Doolittle the fourth, because he was there. But Jimmy Doolittle went off, new guy came in, and he recognized correctly that the fighter bar area of test pilot school had open kegs, and he had teenagers working in his front office. So he declared prohibition in test pilot school. We had to take the kegerators out. Could be no alcohol in the building because you can't have access to teenagers. He was right. I mean, it was relatively well controlled, but it wasn't foolproof. So he wasn't going to be the guy that a couple teenagers drove home drunk because they snuck into the bar and had open access to booze. So that's the environment going up to graduation. Ted Wiersbanowski is going to be the guest speaker. They call out different awards, and I get the number one. I get the R.L. Jones Trophy Award for number one test pilot school grad in my class. I was totally shocked by that. They called my name. I was like, "Grease, that's you. Go get your trophy." I had no idea. I knew I'd done well, but I didn't know I was thought that highly of. But I arranged the guest speaker, and the commandant wanted the speaker's notes ahead of time. And I went, "I'll ask him, but this is Ted Wiersbanowski. I don't know that he's going to necessarily provide it. I don't know that he's going to think about what he's going to say more than 10 minutes before he says it." So, but he was, renowned in the test community. So graduation's over. He's going to do his pitch. He gets up. He thanks everybody for inviting him and all that. And the commandant is there, a test pilot school. The wing commander is there because the test pilot school is a tenant unit of the 412 test wing. The flight test center commander is there, and the ops group commander. So these one general and 306s, and then the test code, all the same VIP table. And Ted gets up behind the podium and do his pitch. "Oh yeah, I talked to Grease. I knew Grease back when he was just a young kid, and yada yada yada." Blah, blah. And so when I talked to my wife, and I said, what could I tell these guys that would be, beneficial for their career and their life and entering flight test and all that. And my wife and I decided, we really should give these guys the same advice that we gave our own kids when they went after college. And we took all our kids when they graduated college, took them on a vacation, kind of celebrate, and took our kids to South America, wherever. So my wife and I decided that we ought to give these guys the same lesson we gave our son when he graduated college. And we brought him down and we sat him down and he said, "Son, the very first thing we got to teach you are the rules of drinking." And the commandant looked over at me, and if he would have had lasers in his eyes, they'd have burned a hole through my head. And I'm just going, "What do I know?" And Ted has no idea this is the environment he stepped into. So first lesson we taught our son was always drink slowly when the women are drinking fast. And he pulls out this big bottle of some kind of expensive liquor from under the podium and puts it on the top and says, "And for the rest of the rules," busts it open, pours himself, says, "Here's to the class. See me at the bar. I'll give you the rest of the rules." And then he plays a video. And this was in the very early stages of political correctness in the culture slash the Air Force. And his video was, "Why are there no Polish test pilots?" And when that goes up, the commandant looks over at me like I didn't know this movie existed. And it was all X-29 stuff because the wings are on backwards. So the entire video is backwards. And he did a voiceover on it about, well, we had some very unusual handling characteristics, and the airplane goes like this instead of like this. And he goes, and touchdowns are terrible, and he does the backwards landing. Yeah, so that was my last 48 hours in test pilot school. But 2 weeks prior to that, I'd been assigned to each assignment before that, and I'd been assigned to be a guest tester up in China Lake for the Navy because they were just bringing the Super Hornet out, and they had no Super Hornet Wizzos. There weren't any in the Navy. So my front seater was a Hornet guy. He was going up there to do Super Hornet test. He told his Navy buds, "We got to bring Grease up here because he knows the Strike Eagle back and forth, he knows the F-11 back and forth, he knows all the weapons. He'd be the perfect guy to help us ring out the Super Hornet." And so that became my assignment. And the Air Force was going to do an exchange kind of thing for my first gig, and I was all excited about that. And literally 2 weeks before test pilot school graduation, somebody in the Pentagon, no clue who it was, published a white paper titled "Why the Super Hornet is a Waste of Money." And it was an Air Force guy that wrote it. So the admiral that approved my assignment to China Lake got that report and said, "Why would the Air Force send their top Wizzo to the Super Hornet program when they're putting out this bullshit about the Super Hornet? I smell a rat." And denied the assignment. And so I just stayed at Edwards and did F-15 test instead.